Hello and welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Founder, the podcast that tells the real stories of the people who make recruitment agency growth possible. I go straight to the source to discover the impact of great strategic partnerships between founders and their leadership teams and uncover why bringing in the right leadership team is crucial for the founder to build the business they want. We discuss what it takes to build a fulfilling career in agency without necessarily being a founder yourself and share the successes of the key people that, alongside the founder, make the agency work. It's unfiltered, honest and unscripted and gives a real insight into the people that make the agency work beyond the founder. So on today's episode, I am delighted to welcome James Betteley, who is the Managing Director of Heriot Brown, who are an in-house legal recruitment specialist. James's story is excellent. It's one that's fairly common in terms of recruitment, and that he started off at a larger agency, worked his way through the ranks, went through the different channels, going up to director level, before making the really brave decision to step away without another role to go to. James made the decision he wanted to do something a little bit different. So he joined a very small but high growth agency in a totally different industry, but he believed in the founder's vision and mission. And since he's joined, the business has been taken to different levels. And in this episode, we dive into exactly what James has achieved, why he made the decision to go to Harriet Brown, how the relationship with the founder and the wider leadership team impacts the results going forward. And this really is a classic story of people coming together, the founder moving out of their own way, bringing in the really strong leadership team, and just exactly what happens and how successful you can be if you get that right. It's unbelievable, so much value in this episode, and I really hope you enjoy it. So let's go straight into it. James, thank you so much for coming on the Beyond the Founder podcast. I'm absolutely delighted to have you here. And this is the second part of the Harriet Brown series. We've had Emma Bauer on from a marketing and community perspective, and I'm so great to have you here from an operational perspective. I think your story is excellent. But obviously I know who you are, but if you don't mind introducing yourself, 2 minutes, just tell us a little bit about you, where you've come from and where you are now. And we'll dive into the story after that.
Brilliant. Well, thank you first of all for having me on, Paul. I'm a little bit nervous, so apologies for
Don't be, man.
any bloopers. I'm James. I'm the Managing Director at Harriet Brown. Harriet Brown, we are an in-house legal specialist recruitment company. So we specialise in placing lawyers in-house, founded by Scott Brown, who is a recovering lawyer. We're an 8-year-old business, and that's me and Harriet Brown.
Fantastic. So your role, you're the Managing Director.
Yeah.
So effectively, you operationally run the team. You do everything from a non-sales perspective, delivery-wise.
Yeah.
But that's obviously, you've gone into an agency that's got a good brand, good reputation, growing. But what's your story? How did you fall into recruitment and end up with Harriet Brown?
So how did I fall into recruitment? I think from a young age, I've always been a very money-motivated person. So I'm going to trace it back to being sort of 13 years old. I remember having a paper round. And then sort of looking at the other kids with the paper round earning £12 a week, and remember seeing the milkman, and he was offering sort of milkman's helper, and I was like, how much are you paying? He was paying £30 a week, so immediately I was like, right, I'm going to have a bit of that. So became the milkman's helper, and then absolutely loved that. And I think I say this to a lot of people, I think that's one of the best jobs that I've ever had. It really taught me a lot about sort of dedication, life skills.
You're up at 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning,
5:30 every morning before school.
At 13 years old?
At 13 years old, yeah. Brilliant job. Honestly, loved it. And at the age of 13, earning £30 a week, which was a pretty long time ago, was really good. And sort of following on from that, kind of like always worked throughout school. And then I think my first experience with a sales job was in university. So I remember being in my second year of uni, and I spent all of my student loan like everyone does. I was kind of walking along the street in Newcastle, and I got stopped in the street, and this guy sort of said, hey, you're looking for a job? And I was like, absolutely, I've got no money left at all. Sort of pitched this job to me. I had no idea what it was. I was sort of given a leaflet and told, turn up at this building at this time. So went along to this building at so time, and there was a sort of big group of people there, and before I knew it, it was so strange, I was sort of shuffled into a one-day training course in a meeting room to become a door-to-door salesman.
Cobra by any chance?
It wasn't actually Cobra, it was a competitor, Home Fundraising, so we did get an hourly wage, but didn't actually know that I was sort of being trained and primed to become a door-to-door salesman. So I did the day's training and was like, I can't believe I'm about to be, sort of put onto the street doing door-to-door sales, encouraging people to sign up to charity. But I thought, hey, I've done the day's training, I'll give it a go. Hit the street and I absolutely loved it. It was incredible. I just naturally was really good at it. I think
around your studies, obviously, funded yourself through uni.
Yeah, so I did that 3 days a week during uni. Going around the northeast, knocking on people's doors, encouraging them to sign up to various different charities. And I think for me, I just got a huge buzz from turning a no into a yes, and from being able to convince people. I took a team leader role there, and I really enjoyed that, sort of getting the guys that were with me motivated. Obviously, in Newcastle during the winter, it can be sort of really cold days, and getting the team sort of enthused to do it. And then when I finished university, I did a degree in geography. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I think I'd had a sort of taste for the sales environment and the sales job. So one of my best friends had gone down to London, interviewed for a recruitment company, and sort of said to me, James, I'm interviewing for recruitment. It's pretty cool. The earning potential is kind of uncapped. You can earn as much as you want. It's a sales-based job. I think it'd suit you really well. And I thought, I'm keen for a bit of this. So it was.
It's amazing actually, because that door-to-door. I mean, I used to recruit for Cobra.
Right. Okay.
Believe it or not, they paid recruitment fees. Yeah, in 2004 when I started, and they look for a certain type of person. Talk about a school of hard knocks. Talk about consistency. Talk about resilience. Talk about is you're turning a yes to a no, but doing it in the right way, because you've got to be careful morally not to compromise what you're doing. The person's got to be able to afford it and want to do it. But wow, what a grounding and what a learning. And so I hear that, and I think some of the best recruiters I know actually started on that door-to-door path. I didn't myself, but as I said, I recruited a lot of them myself. And I can understand absolutely why that would lead you into the world of recruitment. So who was it that you interviewed with in London?
So I came to London, and I think again, I actually went to a rec to rec, and the rec to rec sort of positioned numerous different opportunities to me. And I had 2 days in London. Crikey, I interviewed with so many different companies. I did loads of the sort of assessment centres where you're sort of being pinned against sort of 20 other people. And again, did really well in all of the assessment days, in all of the interviews. And I found a company called Faden International. At the time, they were 50 employees. They had 5 brands, I think, when I started. One of the brands was a brand called Viridium Associates, which specialised in recruiting in renewable energy. And I think what stood out, to be honest with you, what stood out to me is they had a really cool office in Mayfair. My sort of first time wearing a suit. I was like, this is brilliant. I want a piece of this. I'd done the degree in geography, and I thought it was quite closely related to the renewable energy sector. So took the job with Viridium, Faden. At the time, the team that I joined, there was 3 of us. Didn't really have much guidance and training. The company was still in its infancy stage then, so sort of chucked on the phone and recruiting here, there and everywhere. And then sort of really found my feet in the energy market in the US.
What year is this?
This is 2011. Right. This is 2011 when I first got into it. So
markets have picked up again. Things are starting to move again.
Yeah, somewhat. I think it was still a bit of a challenging market following the recession, but I think things were on the up definitely at the time. So I worked there for 2 years, and we had a sister company called Laking Aaron Morehouse, which focused on the oil and gas market. Again, they were really small teams. I think there were about 7 people in that team. And then what happened, I think in about 2014, 2015, the oil crash happened, and the price of oil dropped below 50 a barrel. And in Viridium, we'd already started to find parallel markets to the energy space. So I was working with a lot of construction companies that were also doing heavy civil construction, as well as maybe wind farm construction and transmission construction. So because of the downturn in the industry, we decided to merge Laking and Viridium together, and we created LVI Associates. And then, worked there for the course of my career, so 12 years. And I think over the 12 years, we grew LVI Associates to 350 people globally.
Wow.
I progressed to an executive director and was responsible for just over 40 people in our London, Boston and Dallas offices.
Talk me through that then. So you went from recruitment consultant up through the chain as they were growing, given more and more responsibility.
Yeah.
What was your first experience of running a team?
I think my first experience of running a team was must be about 3.5 years in. 3.5 years in, I made my first hire.
2017.
2016, I think it was, yeah.
And so the training, everything, I presume had leveled up since that point. So when you're taking your team on, when you started, there wasn't much training and development. By this point, Faden would have been a much bigger business.
Absolutely. I think sort of, again, over the course of the time that I was at Faden, when I joined, we were 50 people. When I left, we were just over 1,700 people. Wow. So I think the infrastructure, was it was a very robust infrastructure. We had an L&D team, the marketing team, the finance team. So it was, great.
So you took your first person on in 2016. You then grew your team to what size?
So my team was just over 40 people in our London office, Boston, and in Dallas. So in my last year, I used to sort of float between the 3 offices, managing all of the teams and focusing on the US construction market.
Were you billing as well at this point?
I think I became hands-off when I became an associate director. So I think the sort of tipping point in line with kind of how our Ascent scheme was built was when my team reached 7, it was about 7 people before I came hands off, and it was pretty much impossible to sort of still do deals alongside managing the team. And I think the shift in focus became towards making the team better and growing the team, as opposed to trying to do.
And did you open any of the offices? Did you have to open the US office? Or
it wasn't a case of opening the offices. So the offices were already established, but our brand wasn't established there. So it was a case of an office would typically open with maybe one of the brands, whichever brand and industry was dominant in that region. So as an example, in Boston, I think they started off with one of our sister brands, which was Selby Jennings, which was a finance brand. We would go in, start with that team, and then look to deploy other brands from the London office, deploy 1 to 2 people, and then they would build that brand from that office.
Clever model, really clever. There was a few acquisitions in that time as well. So you went through that process and whatnot. So your path then. So take me up to when did you leave?
So I left. It'd be about a year and 9 months ago.
So what did you leave? What was the because great business, right? And
incredible business.
Still flying.
Incredible business.
Permanent contingent recruitment, and it's like wow. To build that, I've got nothing but respect. To build that business as they've done is phenomenal. Yeah. And a great place, from what I understand, I've spoke to a lot of people, a great place to work as well.
I mean, incredible place to work. Obviously, I spent my entire career there, 12 years, learned everything that I know from that business. So, nothing but good things to say about them. Why did I leave? I think it was just after 12 years in a business, I just think I was ready for the next opportunity and wanted to try something new.
You a family man? Have you got a family?
I have a fiancée.
Have you?
Yeah, who I met at Faden, actually.
2 recruiters in a room, mate. Oh, blimmin' hell. And that's a nice place to be as well, to be fair. I'm 22 years with my wife, 2 kids. And I think that the trajectory changes at that point as well. So if you've got that on your mind and maybe looking to do something a bit different, I suppose, did that all play into your decision-making process, phase of life, next stages, that sort of thing?
I think so. Honestly, I think it was just a case of that's kind of like all I knew. And it was just really ready to get my teeth stuck into something else, and was really keen to really try something completely different.
So did you leave, did you have this role lined up with Harriet Brown before?
No, so my fiancée unfortunately actually got made redundant, and she was in between positions, and I left, served out my 3-month notice period, and we were able to serve that time together. So that was pretty cool. So considering we'd both been working for 12 years, to suddenly have sort of 3 months off together, it was amazing. So we just enjoyed it. We had a lot of holidays, a lot of good time, and I think I started looking for something new sort of after month 1. So
brave move, mate. Brave move. This was last year. The market, 18 months ago, the post-COVID boom has just finished. The market's starting to dip. That's a real brave move. You were obviously very confident in your abilities to pick something up.
Yeah. I think, yeah. Got to take, yeah.
Did you know what you wanted at that point?
I don't think I did. I think I was very unsure on what I wanted, and I think that I knew I didn't want to compete break my non-competition clause, and I knew I didn't want to be in the same industry. I'd spent my entire career focusing on the US market, so it was a very phone-based job, and I think I was very intrigued and very excited about actually working in the London market and working in a market that was going to allow me more face-to-face interactions.
So how much of your team? So you had 40 people in your team. How many in the States?
So the team in London was, I think when I left, must have been about 26, 27, and then the rest was.
You're with the team in London all the time. You seeing them daily?
Yes, but they were all recruiting into the US market. So again, all of my experience had been working with managing people that are working with US clients and working with US clients. Right. So yeah, I think I was really interested first of all, I was really intrigued to go to look at smaller businesses. And I think I was just really interested as well to try a new market, challenge myself and to continue learning and developing. So yeah, came across Harriet Brown. I wouldn't say...
How did you come across Harriet Brown?
So I approached a recruiter. The recruiter sort of put a couple of different opportunities to me. One of them being Harriet Brown, which I quickly shut down. They told me, yeah, we've got this opportunity for managing director with an in-house legal recruitment company. And I think my immediate response was legal. I had this sort of picture of kind of what like the legal industry and legal recruiters would be like, and I was like, I don't think that's going to be me. So turned that down, interviewed with a couple of companies, did really well, got offers from them both, and then the recruiter really pushed me actually when I had the other two offers and said, look, you've got these offers, like what have you got to lose by having a conversation with Harriet Brown?
Sounds like a good recruiter.
Really good recruiter, yeah. Massive shout out to Laura.
You can say it, yeah, okay. Say it.
Massive shout out to Laura at Rule. I don't think she's there anymore, but yeah, thank you for giving me that push. So yeah, she convinced me to have the conversation with Scott, and I remember taking that call, and I'd actually just come away from a final interview, so I think I was really high energy, I was really buzzing, and I had the call with Scott, and I just hit it off with him so well, and we gelled instantaneously. And I remember coming off that call and I turned around to my partner and I said, if I don't get that job, I'm going back to square one again, because that is exactly what I want.
Other offers and go back to square one.
And I was really close to, I would say, taking one of the other offers. But
they bigger businesses, were they?
They were big. They were both bigger businesses. I would say they were both businesses during a growth phase. But Harriet Brown was just different, unique. I immediately knew from the conversation with Scott that, first of all, he's a wicked guy. I thought the brand that he's created was just insane. Some of the things that he was telling me when I asked him what your USPs are, I was just absolutely blown
Was Emma
away.
there at this point?
Emma was there, yeah. So I think, again, having the conversation with Scott, I think one of the things that really stood out to me is it was a small business, flat structure, financially doing really well, but he was a bit unsure kind of like how to take it to the next level. And I remember a couple of things he said to me. He said, we do this annual Burns event. And I was like, what's this? What's this annual Burns event?
You're a recruitment agency.
Yeah, you're a recruitment agency. What's that? And he said, basically, it's a Scottish version of Shakespeare. We celebrate him, and we bring 140 general counsels into the room and wine and dine them. And I sort of said, general counsels, are they like the top hiring managers? And he said, yeah. And I just remember blinking, seeing like pound signs, thinking like, this is insane. And then, seeing his podcasts, and his vision was just very entrepreneurial, very disruptive. And I just felt that the issues and the problems that he was having, I could make a really big impact on.
So how many meetings had you had with him at this point?
One.
So after that one Teams interview? The
one Teams interview, honestly, that's where I think I turned to the recruiter and I said, if I don't get this, I'm going back to the drawing board again.
So how many how many employees, how many billers did you have in the team at that point?
So how many billers did he have? So the team was 11. There was one lady that was on maternity leave, and there was Emma, Scott, and Chloe. So 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 8, 9, 10, seven billers.
7 billers. Okay. And I mean, I know Scott, and I know that he was phenomenal in identifying areas he wasn't strong. And he's such an inspiring guy, right? He's really, really good at what he does. Lawyer for a very short period of time, then went in-house for a short period of time, and then the foresight to set up Harriet Brown, recognising he believed he could do it better. Exceptional. But he's also then identified that he needs to get out of his own way and free up certain areas of the business for it to thrive and reach its potential. One of them was Emma. He obviously identified that really quickly, and blue sky thinking. But the other was you, and it's a role that most founders don't have they know they need, but don't often press the button on it until they've been through real pain, and also get very nervous about bringing someone in and that salary and that level without them billing. Whereas Scott didn't. He identified he needed that and understood what he needed from a person. But just explain what the business was like and where the holes were when you came in from your perspective.
So I think there were naturally a lot of holes that were very easy for me to spot. But I think they were only easy for me to spot because I'd been part of a journey of a high growth business, and the sort of holes that I spotted were things that seemed like they were second nature to me. So if I was to kind of talk you through, I guess, the changes that I've made and sort of like what my journey's looked like since I've been there, it was, I think, number one, the first thing that I did was I had one-to-ones with everyone in the team before I joined, just to try and get a bit of buy-in with them, sort of let them know, look, I'm not going to be a threat. I want to get to know you. I want to get to understand what your motivations are, and my job's going to be to help you achieve them. So I did one-to-ones with everyone in the team, sort of did a bit of a deep dive into the stats, the numbers. I was quite surprised that they didn't have a set of KPIs. To me, I'd been in a business that I would say had a very robust model that worked, and we had a robust set of KPIs that we knew that if you hit these, you're going to be successful. So first thing that I did was deep dive into the numbers since the business had been going, and created a set of KPIs. I noticed that there was no clear ascent scheme for the team, so no one really knew what they needed to do to get promoted. So I built an ascent scheme right from associate up to director, made it completely black and white to everyone exactly what you need to do to become promoted. I looked at the markets that we were operating in, made some slight tweaks to the markets to allow for more synergy. We looked at the growth plan, adapted the growth plan slightly, rolled the growth plan out to the team, set the vision, got everyone brought into the vision, and created a management structure, and then really looked for where there was a lack of process. And I guess like one by one have been sort of working and chipping away to get processes in for the entire recruitment cycle.
Thinking systems as well as process, so from onboarding, right, from
from everything, from onboarding, from the way hiring, that we hire, for the way that the consultants go about working a job would be, a really simple one, and just having that sort of set flow and set structure of, right, day one, we've taken a job brief, what do we do, and making sure that everyone's doing it in the same way, even to, the way that we go about sourcing new jobs. And I think, again, working at such a large agency prior to Harriet Brown, it was very easy to look at one part of the business and see what's working well and take that and apply it to the other. So there's lots of ideas bouncing around. So I sort of feel like I came with like this huge playbook of ideas of things that I know that would work. And naturally, Harriet Brown being a small agency, and they didn't have them. So I was able to sort of, I guess, show the playbook of ideas and slowly start implementing them one by one. And
Scott backed you to do that and give you the freedom and the resource you needed to make that work and make that happen. And how were you held accountable? What were you judged in terms of results and deliverables?
So yes, I think in the first 6 months, in the first 6 months, I was set a set of OKRs, and obviously a revenue target in terms of looking at things for the 6 month, but more focused on a billing number as opposed to an invoicing number. So we could actually see the immediate impact that I was having. So I think in the first 6 months, we increased NFI by 25%. And then
by making these changes.
Just by making these changes, yeah. And then, the last year's been really cool. So Scott left it to me to create a budget at the end of last year, which was pretty difficult because I guess I'd only been in the business at the time of setting the budget for 5 months. So I feel like I had a good flavour of the business and had a good idea of what my growth plan was and where I wanted to get to. So we set a budget at the end of last year, and then ultimately my targets and bonus were all linked to that budget.
Fantastic. I mean, I met Scott when I met Scott in London in April, and you hadn't long massively been in. I think it's 6 months maybe. I think his words to me were absolute game changer. You know, it's
good to hear.
Yeah, it's transformed the business because he knows his strengths and weaknesses. Like, he's such a lovely guy.
Yeah.
He's but that process side of it, and most recruitment founders aren't by very nature. They could be big billers and they could be entrepreneurial and they've got a bit of desire and burning. They've got all the characteristics and the traits, resilience and desire. But process and structure and operational efficiency aren't massively usually high on that agenda. So they can do it, but give them a choice. They want to be off with clients, they want to be off talking, they want to be off growing the business. The problem is when you take them off the delivery side of it and the operational side, it suffers. So to bring someone in like yourself that can manage that and free him up to do everything else he's doing and oversee it all is phenomenal. And that plays to your strengths. Is that's where you want to be and that's where you're best fit? Or?
Yeah, I think I enjoy the sales side, and I think in my previous role, in the last year and a half was when I took on the international role, and I was responsible for our Boston and our Dallas office for the construction teams. And that was sort of going back from managing a team of 25 plus to then managing smaller teams of I think in Dallas we were like 4 people and in Boston we were 11. And I really enjoyed that part of it. I think I enjoy the most working with small groups of people and really developing those groups of people and getting those core structures in play, getting the right people in the right markets, and then working with the team during its infancy stage, during that sort of high growth period. So yeah, I think where I have the biggest impact has been getting these initial processes in play, getting people bought in, which is key, right? Getting everyone behind the vision, and then looking to sort of have the right structures in play that's going to enable us to go to the next level.
And does Scott outline the vision and you bought into it, or have you kind of created a bit together as you've gone through now?
Yeah, I would say we've created it as we've gone. I would say we've created it together. So I think for us, like Scott was very clear with me about the vision, that his aim was that he wants this Harriet Brown to be a place that everyone wants to work, which I thought was super cool.
That's
right?
Like that.
He was like, I really take a step back sometimes and say, is this a business that I would have wanted to join as a grad? But I think our vision was pretty simple. We want to be the number one go-to provider for in-house legal recruitment. We want to dominate the London market and then look to expand worldwide. And I think for us, the vision is to enable fulfilling careers internally and externally.
I love that. And so in terms of your role, obviously operationally you run the team. Who owns the client relationships?
So I think that was one of the biggest changes that we had to make. So I think when you look at a lot of our competition, talking about legal recruitment companies specifically, they're set up very similarly to law firms. So it's the guy, lady at the top that owns all of the relationships, and they're sort of passing the business down to the consultants. The model that I'd been taught and that I guess that I learned in was very much 360, hiring graduates, teaching them to become 360 consultants and teaching them to generate and own those relationships themselves. And the way that Harriet Brown was is most of the relationships Scott had owned. So I think it was quite difficult for him stepping away to start with, but ultimately that's what he's done. He stepped away, and now every consultant within their industry vertical owns those relationships themselves.
And they're 360?
They're 360, so yeah, everyone on the team's 360.
And mainly perm, or you got a nice contract?
So we're perm and contract. So actually, really cool success story has been our top biller, who was on maternity leave when I joined. I sort of chatted to her throughout her maternity leave, right? You know, I knew she was a top biller. I was super excited to be working with her, and was really looking at how do I make sure that I integrate her back into the team, right? She'd gone on maternity leave when I wasn't there. We were a really small business. I've sort of made all of these changes. We've got the growth plan in play. We've got the management structure in play. And, you know, I wanted to make sure that, that she was going to be integrated back in, and that she was going to still, you know, feel like a huge part of it, which she is. And we identified that we needed someone in to offer our interim offering and positioned this role to her, and she came back in February, and first time operating in the interim space, has absolutely killed it. Yeah, she's making a killing.
But hats off to you, though, right? You give a shit, don't you? And I'm looking at you, and I'm listening to your story, and I interview a lot of people, and I'm not saying people don't, but what comes out very clearly in this conversation, and conversations we've had previously, is yes, you're very switched on, very attuned into operationally and from a sales perspective, what needs to be delivered to make Harriet Brown and hit your objectives and maintain your values. But you actually really care about what you're doing and the cause behind it. And that just goes to show, nurturing her through that period and having that empathy to understand there's so many changes here. She's a top biller, but you're coming in and nurturing her through that. I think it's easy for people to oversee that and give the intern excuse if it's okay, they're on maternity, they're busy, they're doing what they want, leave them be. When in reality, that can sometimes be an excuse to not want to front that out and not want to make that happen. But the fact you've done that says a lot about you, I think. Because, well, she's come in and you've identified something slightly different that's going to fit in with what she wants to do and also benefit the business. I think that just strikes of the core values. Is this a place I want to work? And that's really impressive.
Absolutely. And I think, your values change as you grow and mature. Like, I think, I started this meeting talking about how the reason I got into recruitment was because I was extremely money motivated. And don't get me wrong, I'm still very financially driven, but I think the things that excite me and the reason that I get up every day is making an impact on the business, but also making an impact on people and the team and the industries that we serve. I think there's no better feeling that I get at the end of the day of knowing that my team's had a good day and watching my team go through the ascent scheme. So again, since I've put the promotion criteria in play, I think 5 of the team have been promoted in the last year. And it's just amazing, right? You're like...
So that ascent scheme is such a simple concept if you know it.
Mm.
But you don't know what you don't know. And so many people don't do that because they don't know how to do it. So it's one thing saying I'm going to put it, but to actually put a structured scheme that's working and people can work towards and that's, I think, probably testament to where you've been and where you were trained. But to have the foresight to identify that immediately, again, just goes to show what you're about. So what's the plan for James and where do you see you taking Harriet Brown and going forward?
So I think first and foremost we want to absolutely dominate the London market, and we really truly want to be the number one go-to provider for in-house legal recruitment. I think that we're a disruptive business. I think everything that Emma, our head of community, who I believe you've had on the podcast before, is doing from the lodge perspective, it's incredible. And can't give too much information away on it, but Scott and Emma, they're looking at a couple of different revenue streams that we're going to be able to generate. And I think, we don't want to be beige. We want to be forward thinking. We want to be disruptive. We want to be the number one go-to provider. We want this to be a fun place. And we want, like I said, like it is our value, we want to enable fulfilling careers for those internally.
I can see why the three of you get on so well, because the dynamic, you're weirdly very, very different. But when I'm sitting talking to you, you're all very similar. And I don't know, that kind of must be by design on Scott. He knows what he wants and he knows what he's looking for. But at the same time, you guys have all got to be brought into each other as well, because small business growing, that market is dominated by 1 or 2 players, and breaking into that isn't a challenge, but you've got to do it the right way. It's a challenge, but you've got to do it the right way. It's not insurmountable. And I think that... Knowing Scott and knowing you and Emma, I think there's really, really exciting times ahead for that business. What I'm going to do is I always end on a question, right? And it can be anything. So just take it personally, professionally, whatever. But what's the one thing you wish you'd have known or done sooner?
I think one of my I have lots of little phrases that I love to use to the guys, and one of them is definitely people buy from people, not emails. And I think it's very easy, and I definitely did at the start of my career, underestimate the power of building relationships. And I think the one thing that I wish I'd realised earlier is how important it is to build solid, meaningful relationships with people. And no call is a bad call.
I love that. How do you think that in your business the technology will play a part going forward in that growth? you leveraging it well?
Technology,
Yeah,
I think we're trying to, right? I think we very much are trying to be a forward-thinking business. I think, in terms of technology, we're looking at different AI tools. Obviously, everyone uses ChatGPT, but it's about using it in a way that serves us. So for creating sort of like frameworks for things that we're doing, we're looking at some pretty cool OKR tools at the moment. Trying to embrace it as much as we can and stay ahead of the game, right?
The reason I ask that is because when you say about relationships and I've got this theory that I've had. I mean, I've 20 years on running businesses, and before that I worked in a family business that scaled massively. And it's all about touch points, constant engagement and adding value all the way through. And sometimes a lot of the relationships you have, they start and there's no value there. So there's no result there for a long time, years it can be. But as long as you're doing the right thing in the right way, and I believe that for you to achieve what you're going to need to achieve, it is definitely about them relationships, because that community you're building is phenomenal. And you can leverage technology to help you to do that. But you're going to have them relationships, which is going to be so important.
Yeah, and I think it's all about leveraging technology as much as you can, but the relationships are everything. And that I think, the community aspect is why I'm part of this business, and it's making sure that we're bringing the community and the sales side together, but making sure, as I say, that we are creating meaningful relationships. And I think, everything that Emma's doing, again, our head of community for that side of the business is phenomenal. I think, we've had over 1,000 registrations to our events so far this year.
That's crazy.
And it's been pretty cool.
All your ICP as well, all your target.
Exactly. And the whole idea from what we're doing is that we're not trying to get sales from it. The philosophy is that if Emma's able to build a community and create value for that community, the sales will naturally come, and they have. I mean, since we started tracking last year, we could attribute 80,000 directly to the community, and that shot up to 400k this year. So and that's a phenomenal number. And I think she's managed to increase the number of participants in our WhatsApp groups from 200 at the start of the year to 700 now. And I think last year we had about 500 registrations to events. We're already on 1,000 now, so it's
working.
It's working. It's working.
You'd be so far ahead, because what a lot of people do, and I spoke to Emma about this. They build a WhatsApp community, and it's a case of, right, there's a speaker, here's this. Now, where's your business? It's not about adding, that's not adding value. That's just creating. And
they can sniff it out, right? And I think I know that there are other companies that are trying to do it, but I think when you mix the sales and the community is where the mistake is, because like you said, right, people can see that there's a hidden agenda. If you've got a sales consultant that's trying to build a community, and then suddenly they're like, oh, that was great, thanks for coming to that event. Where's the business?
People also, you've niched down. So what a lot of people do is they try and make the community broad-based, because they're looking at numbers.
Okay.
So you might have 400 people, but if they're so segmented that there's no value being connected, whereas what you seem to have done from your community is have very similar people in very similar groups. There's total value and everyone can relate to it. There's nothing worse than being a part of a community and just scrolling through because it's all totally irrelevant to you. And the one thing that might be relevant gets lost because 15 other messages comes through. So I think what I understand, you're building a real valuable community, which is excellent. And the reason I wanted to do this series, and I've not done this before, and I want to get you and Emma back on together at some point in the near future. So I think it's really be great for the viewers to see the dynamic between you and see what I'm seeing. If Scott would jump on as well, I'll just sit back and let you three talk. It'd be brilliant. But what Scott has done is I speak to so many founders, and the same problems occur, and I'm feast and famine. I can't move out my way. I need a key hire. I don't know how to do it. And so they never break out of their own way. They never break below a certain. They never break that ceiling and scale, which they want to do. Yeah. They never have a lifestyle business because it's all dependent on them, and they can never grow and scale because again, it's too dependent.
It takes a lot of courage to do that, right?
It does,
I think
massively.
That's one of the things that excited me as well. I think the fact that Scott trusted in me to ultimately take his baby, right?
Exactly.
And to turn his baby into a toddler, right? It's and that's really fulfilling to see that someone is empowering you and allowing you that trust. And then it's been amazing that I've been able to I guess have such positive impact on it.
It's just starting, isn't it? And that's my point, is the fact that every founder I see that has done that has flourished. And it's not until you speak to yourself, and Emma's over there, that you understand the power of it, and you speak to the people directly who are doing it behind the founder. And that's what this whole podcast is about, is giving people the opportunity to hear from people beyond the founder and their story, and just how much value they can add if trusted to do what they're brilliant at. Because there is so much potential in there, and it's just brilliant to hear. James, I'm absolutely delighted. I think this has been phenomenal. I've really enjoyed the conversation. So many nuggets of value that are going to come out of this. It's great. And you know what? I'm just delighted to have you on, and hopefully we'll definitely have you guys back on again soon.
Brilliant. Thanks for having me, Paul.
Absolute pleasure. So how was that?
It was normal, James.
Yeah.
Mate, you were phenomenal.
Yeah.
You were brilliant.
Thanks, mate.
You're not happy?
I don't know. I feel like there's points I wanted to get across that I didn't.
Say him. Say him.
Yeah. Again, looking at the changes that have made, we looked at the number yesterday. So I think, revenue's up 86% from last year.
86%,
which is
in a bad market.
in one financial year, which is pretty cool. But again, don't want to
we
be
getting
that,
this?
that dickhead that's
this is going on the outtakes.
That's bragging.
Trust me.
Like to try and stay modest, but
Mate, why the fuck stay modest? You're on a podcast to promote your business and your skills
you're right.
and your ability. You are up 86% in a shit market because of what you've made and changes you've made. That is phenomenal. As a team.
I don't think it's not just because of the changes. I think it's almost, I feel, just the team's so amazing. And I think I was so lucky to walk into such a strong team. And all I really feel I've done is just pull it together a little bit.
But what you've done, you've been entrusted to deliver what you're good at.
Yeah.
Emma's been entrusted to deliver what she's good at. You've been given time, space, resource, and support to deliver that. That's not magic beans. That's something. It's called being mature enough to step out of the way of your business and let the business be itself, not about the founder.
Yeah, no,
and the result is incredible. But you've done what you need to do. So has Emma, so has Scott, and so has the team. But the results are phenomenal. 86%, that's blown my mind.
Thanks.
Yeah, you need to shout about that.
Yeah.
Mate, it's been brilliant. Let's go and have a beer.
Cheers, dude.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to the show. I really hope you enjoyed it. First and foremost, we always try to add value to our audience, be it a founder looking to scale or a leader looking to progress up the chain in the agency world. And if we can do this in a way that is easy to watch and entertaining, then for me, that is job done. Once again, thanks for listening, and until next time.